The Dutch Grand Prix was supposed to be predictable. McLaren looked set for an easy 1-2, Verstappen's struggling Red Bull didn't stand a chance, and everyone thought it was just another day at Zandvoort. But what we got was pure chaos. Both Ferraris went up in smoke, Hamilton's race ended before the checkered flag, and Lando's title fight took a brutal hit. Then, out of nowhere, rookie Isaac Hadjar snatched a podium. This wasn't the race we expected. It was absolute madness from start to finish. So strap in, folks, because we're going to be diving into the deep end of this year's Dutch GP review. So after the summer break, you'd think the drivers would come back refreshed, sharp, and ready to deliver, but nah, FP2 was basically a highlight reel of mistakes. Lewis Hamilton decided to practice his Beyblade routine with a little spin. Yuki and Kimi both took trips off track like they were sightseeing, and of course the coastal winds decided to join the chaos, gusting in from the shore and making the cars twitch around like they were driving on ice. Then there's Lance Stroll, who has somehow become the crash test dummy of Aston Martin lately. During practice, he smacked the barriers, which already set the tone, but in qualifying, he went full commitment to the bit by hitting the wall again in Q1. The man didn't even get a timed lap in. Imagine having a car that's actually quick this season and just refusing to use it. That's Lance for you. Now moving into Q3, and the spotlight shifts to McLaren, because all weekend it looked like Lando Norris had Oscar covered. Lando was quicker in every session, people were whispering about him maybe actually converting pole into a win, and then of course, when it really mattered, Norris went full Bottolo mode. Classic Lando. Q3 rolls around, pressure hits, and suddenly he's settling for P2 instead of sealing the deal. Meanwhile, Oscar quietly just sat there like, yeah, cool, I'll just take whatever scraps you leave me. But the real surprise wasn't even them. Out of nowhere, Isaac Hadjar decides to join the party in Q3 and nails himself P4 alongside Verstappen. That's right, the kid who is probably still trying to figure out which button adjusts the brake bias just casually parked it near the front row in only his rookie season. It's the kind of qualifying result that makes you double-check the timing screens like, wait, is that a glitch? Or are we actually living in a timeline where Hadjar out-qualifies half the grid? But nope, it's real. So by the end of quali, we've got chaos everywhere. Aston Martin's weekend already in the bin thanks to Lance, McLaren fans once again pulling their hair out thanks to Norris, and a rookie shaking things up in a way nobody saw coming. Honestly, if this is just the appetizer before lights out, you already know the race itself is going to be absolute madness. So lights out, and immediately we knew Max Verstappen was in one of those moods. The guy looks around, sees literally everyone else on mediums, and just says, nah, gimme softs, like he's playing F1 manager on easy mode. Except this isn't a video game. He launches like a rocket, goes wheel to wheel with Lando into turn 1, nearly bins it by turn 3 with a snap of oversteer that had every Dutch fan in the stands gasping. But of course it's Max, so he somehow holds it together, like it's just another Tuesday. But here's the thing, this was not some genius move. Max was rolling the dice, hoping for rain or a safety car. And if you've watched F1 long enough, you know that when you're betting on chaos to save your race, usually it ends in pain. And sure enough, Lando just coolly repasses him after a few laps, because softs don't last forever, no matter how much Verstappen wants them to. But then, the sky decides to spice things up. A drizzle starts, and immediately, every strategist and fan in the world is playing the guessing game. Do you pit now? Do you wait? Is this a passing shower? What's happening? And just as everyone's scratching their heads, boom! Lewis Hamilton decides to introduce his car to the barriers. Classic timing. The guy's weekend was already rough, and now he single-handedly solved everyone's pit stop dilemma. The safety car comes out, and suddenly the pit lane looks like Black Friday at Walmart. Cars diving in from every angle. Both McLaren switch to hards, playing the long game, while Max goes mediums again, like he's desperately trying to manifest another safety car. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work, and he spends the next stint glued to the back of Lando, without ever really landing the killer blow. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc decides he's had enough of people calling him washed, and pulls off one of the coldest overtakes of the season on George Russell. Around the outside, banging wheels, full commitment. It's the kind of move that makes you remember why Ferrari still pays him. Of course, in classic George Russell fashion, the overtake isn't complete until he's whined about it on the radio. So naturally, we get a fresh batch of "he pushed me wide" while Charles is already up the road. Then comes the Ferrari Clown Show Part 2. Charles pits to cover off Kimi Antonelli because that kid was genuinely on a charge, and they come out nose to tail. Kimi, maybe a little too eager to prove he belongs, throws a ridiculously optimistic lunge and ends up plowing straight into Leclerc. Boom! Double Ferrari heartbreak. Charles is out, and the Tifosi watching at home are probably pouring another glass of wine, wondering why they even bother. And to add insult to injury, because Charles parked it in the wrong spot after the crash, he had to literally sit trackside and wait for the entire GP to end. Imagine having one of your worst days ever and then being forced to just sit there and stew while cars keep flying by. Brutal. And just when you thought we'd hit peak chaos, Lando Norris McLaren decides it's done for the day. Engine goes, smoke pouring out, oil everywhere, and he's forced to retire. The guy who was supposed to cruise to an easy win ends up stranded on the side of the track, helmet off, just sitting there like he's watching a bus go by that he missed. It was peak Lando luck. Fans were ready for another bottle job, but no, the car itself decided to bottle it for him. So, with all of that madness, Lewis in the wall, Ferrari double DNF, who's left standing? Oscar Piastri. The quiet assassin. He takes the lead, keeps it clean, and actually brings it home to win the race. Max, despite all his gambling and desperate tyre choices, has to settle for second, which honestly still feels like a miracle given the car he's in. But the story of the day? Isaac Hadjar, rookie, first season in F1, stands on the podium like he's been there for years, and his celebration? Pure joy. It wasn't polished, it wasn't media trained, it was raw, and it was perfect. You could feel the kid living his dream in real time, and honestly, it was the cherry on top of one of the wildest Dutch GPs we've had in years. Alright, let's wrap this up with the chaos after the flag, because Formula One never stops delivering storylines even when the engines are switched off. The first one's straight out of a sitcom. Kimi Antonelli apparently felt so bad for the tangle with Charles that he actually went over to Ferrari's home base to apologize in person. That's either incredibly respectful or incredibly awkward. Because imagine being 18, knocking into Leclerc, and then walking into the Ferrari motorhome like, "Hi guys, sorry about wrecking your golden boys race." Honestly though, that's the kind of humility F1 fans love to see, and maybe it earns him some respect early on in his rookie journey, even if the Tifosi aren't exactly handing out forgiveness coupons. Meanwhile, Isaac Hadjar's celebrations were, let's say, a little too enthusiastic. The guy pulled off the biggest win of his career, but in the middle of the champagne chaos, he manages to literally break the trophy. There's a meme brewing already. He's barely been in F1 5 minutes and he's got a win and a bill for damages. Then we've got Carlos Sainz, who's basically at war with the FIA at this point. After picking up that extra 10-second penalty mid-race, he apparently tried to go to the stewards to at least get a face-to-face explanation, but was told not right now. And this is the same FIA that's always preaching about, we're open to communication with drivers, our doors are always open. Yeah, except when someone actually walks up to the door, then suddenly it's locked. You can't blame Carlos for being frustrated, because penalties in F1 already feel like a lottery. And when you're not even allowed to plead your case, it just makes the whole thing look worse. The race weekend ends in peak Formula One fashion, and the chaos that follows when you throw 20 drivers, a bunch of politics, and some very fragile trophies into the mix. Next round, the focus shifts again, but something tells me this season's just warming up.